Good morning, everybody. So today I wanted to talk to you about the narcissist and why I know it is demon possession. Okay, so I don't think that psychotherapists and psychologists, they can't really talk on, I don't even think they're allowed to talk on the spiritual side of things because it's not like their expertise. So they're never going to talk about it. And if they do, you're going to find that a lot of times they're going to maybe hint around it, or they're going to refer you to somebody else that's spiritual to handle that side of it. But what I am going to say is that they say that if you are an empath, for instance, and you see demon faces on people, now you have Sam Bankman, who's a self-aware narcissist. He tells you that you're seeing, you have some kind of psychological issue because you're seeing demon faces on them. So they always come up, this is the matrix, they're always going to come up with some falsities, and God allows them to have opportunities to twist things. Because if he didn't, the enemy, Satan, wouldn't have anything to run off. So you have to use your own discernment. But I know that there's hundreds of thousands of people on this earth that have spoke on seeing demonic faces and hearing deeper voices or demonic voices, seeing black eyes and all that. So I had an experience where I saw spiritual faces on where time stood still, and I saw this narcissist that I was with morph into demonic faces, and I've explained it on in a couple of older videos. But my point is that I know, and I have discernment. I went to seminary school and everything, so I know the Lord, and I'm under construction when it comes to my spiritual relationship with the Lord, but I think we all are. But my point is I listened to a guy yesterday, and he's a deliverance pastor. His name is Nelson Schumann, I think. Y'all can look him up on YouTube, but he talked about how he's delivered, and these people that were narcissists have gotten healing from deliverance. He was talking about how that the process of it and how it doesn't occur as often as other deliverances because these individuals are heavy into the demonic presence. And so he talked about how that these individuals, they had trauma, and so I want to give a little grace here for these individuals when they were children, because he did speak on, they all had some kind of trauma. It could be sexual, it could be any kind of different abuse. But he also talked about how even the golden child has been could have been very much so abused, as far as very much, not treated very good at all. You know what I mean? Because you can grow up a golden child, doesn't mean that you didn't deal with a whole lot of abuse. So with giving them grace there, see, I don't give them grace for the way that they live. I mean, they in the moment of time that it happened, and I have a tough time, like, how far does grace go? You know what I mean? So, especially when you've been destroyed by these individuals, and I've had multiple of these relationships, so I can tell you firsthand that I've dealt with my share. But that's not really my point. My point is that there is a chance that some of them can get deliverance. But he was talking about how they have to first be willing to understand and accept the fact that they need help and they're not acting right, that they want to turn this around. And number two was that, where they get into this trouble and where the narcissist wants to get you stuck is where you get angry and bitter and you won't forgive. And this is the demon inside them, the demons, okay? And they want to pass this on to you, because if you can be bitter and angry and hateful from all of the stuff that they put on you when you were innocent, maybe a little naive or unawoke, really, because it's like you've been played. I mean, and this is not a situation where you should typically get played, not to this extent. So he was saying that, you have to forgive, because if you don't forgive, if you can't find it, and that's up to you, you got to find that place. And sometimes it takes time to forgive. So I'm not going to even judge that. I don't judge y'all. But I am saying this, that on my channel, I want to make y'all aware that these things open doors to, demons having the ability to infiltrate you. I mean, and you don't want to leave any open doors. But, you got to find it in your heart at some point in time. I mean, I've been there. And sometimes there's times where it can, come back at me, and I have to be like, man, but I can't be that. You can't let your flesh control you. And that's what the narcissist done. They totally got in their flesh. But I wanted to talk about a little bit of this construct, because when you think about it, they come in, right? And then he said that they would have to forgive, and then they would have to deal with the issue of pride, because you have to let, Christ come in and heal you. And if you can't do that, if you can't let your pride down, then you'll never be able to get to a state of salvation, because you have to get to a state of salvation so that you can extract these demons. Okay, and so that doesn't happen very often. He said they usually can't get past the fact that they need help, or that they're not perfect, or whatever, the construct. So it's hard for them. They have to get through those 3 stages before they can even, get delivered. And a lot of times these demons have got them so construed, man, or got them so twisted up. Just like they twist you up, that's how twisted they are. And, he talked about how when this trauma happens, they have unforgiveness. And then, demons start to get attached to them, and they start to speak to them. They start hearing these voices in their head, man, and telling them things. And what it gets them to do is to control individuals and manipulate individuals, just like we see, And then they get demons. He spoke about the demon of Jezebel, and then the demon of Leviathan are 2 that he spoke on. I know that there's 8. I've went over them, and there's even more than that. Once you let one in, there's no telling how many can come in. But, demons, they need a body. And so they have to convince the human to open doors so that they can come in. And, if you know the Lord, you're covered, but you can also be attacked from the outside. And so when you don't when you don't have forgiveness for someone, it talks in the Bible where God will let you be dealt with from, I think it's like, I don't know if it's torturous, but he's talking about in the word, it talks about that there'll be conflicting entities that will be allowed to deal with you. I guess because, Christ walked the earth and he was perfect. And because he was perfect, he took all the sin of the earth and he forgave everybody. So if we're supposed to walk like him, we have to learn to forgive people even when they don't maybe deserve it. And that's hard. But it is what it is, This may be a long one. But I wanted to talk about it because what they do is they come in, and what they do is they seduce you. Okay, I'm going to change this love bomb, devalue, discard thing around, because what they do is they come in and they seduce you, and that would be Jezebel. Jezebel is the seducer, the seductress. Okay, and then they torture you. Okay, they break you down, right, in the devalue phase. And that's the torturous spirit. And they gaslight you, they devalue you, they cheat on you, lie to you. They manipulate everything in your life, and they chip away at your self-esteem and your self-worth and everything good in your life that they went over when they seduced you in the love bomb phase. Now they torture you with it. Okay. And then what they do is they discard you. And to discard you is kind of a form of destruction. They are out to destroy you. And then when you recover, if you do recover, then they come back and they seduce you again. That's the Hoover and the love bomb again. And then just to do it over and over again. And if you allow this stuff to happen over and over and over again, what it does, it breaks down your spirit, man, and it breaks down your mind, will, and emotions to where you will get into a spot and a space and time to where you will not be a believer anymore, I mean, if you continue down this road of abuse. And so that's why you don't want to let the narcissist in, but there's many other reasons. What they kind of do is they first get you into covenant with them. They get you to consent by getting in a relationship with them as consent. Sometimes mine even verbally consented me to things. And it seemed like we were in a verbal agreement for, it was weird. It's very weird. These guys do weird things because a lot of times it's because they don't have empathy. And when you don't have love, you lose a lot of what humanity has to offer. But what they do is they come in, they seduce you, and then they get you, in covenant with them. They, and then, yeah, if you have intercourse with them, right? And then what they do is they're kind of like idolizing you, right? In the idolizing phase, the love bomb phase. So then it's kind of like a form of them worshiping you, right? Because they think you're perfect. And that's all they can like is perfect, because that's what they believe they are, and that's what they believe that is going to fix them. And so shortly thereafter, you're not perfect. You're not perfect anymore, because it doesn't take very long for somebody to realize that you're not going to be perfect. They just were infatuated with you, so they allowed things to occur. They let things they gaslit themselves, and they were excited. So in their infatuation, everything seems perfect. But then later on, when you question them, or you go against them, or you disagree with them, or you argue with them because they're not acting right, then you get into the value phase. So it kind of gets to where when they're worshiping you, you're kind of start to worship them in a sense, I mean, because I think like they tell you so many good things and they get you allured into the spell, right? And then you start to really kind of eat it up. And then you kind of give that same worship back to them. And I know worship is a strong word, but this is kind of along the lines of what it is. And then what they do, and think about this, you're dealing with the demons, you're not really dealing with the humanity person as much. They're there, but they're being used just like they're using you. So it's nothing to feel shame about, because they get good people, man. They get top-notch empaths, man, when it comes to these types of things. When they want the primary supply, they don't go for trash. And this is the deal, they look for high-value, perfect targets. People that have good jobs, they are well in their career, they have charisma in a good version of things, not in a manipulative state. They have clout. They have finances. They have homes. They're taking care of everything on their own. Okay. And a lot of times they can look decent, These are the empaths that they really want for the primary supply, because they want to wear you around like jewelry, and they want to control you, and they want somebody that is hard to break, because they like the challenge. And they don't want, if they're as amazing as they believe they are, they don't want their primary source to be weak. Mine used to tell me that all the time. And she would tell me, because I would be like, look, you're not, because there would be points in time where I'm like, you're not going to break me and stuff. There's like certain things that, they get you in all these different modes, right? And you're shifting gears all the time, trying to find the right speed to fix this, right? Because, back then we were trying to fix it. We get into a state where we would try to fix it at some point. But it's part of the spell, y'all. I don't think a lot of this, some of it you need to wake up to, and some of it, they exacerbate. You may have had little inklings of this, and they fuel that fire, they inflame it. Okay, so what they talk about in psychology about, what the empath is, why they get in so much trouble with the narcissist. We're susceptible because it's a generational curse, and we have to go through tests, and God allows this because somebody in our generations opened these doors, and it goes to the 4th generation, and we have to break the curse. And breaking the curse is waking up and then walking away. It's not just waking up, but they want somebody that's high value, very high value. So I don't see as many people on YouTube because it doesn't show as many photos and things, but I have I have over 10,000 subscribers on TikTok, and they show pictures, man. There's a lot of beautiful people, man, that these people have knocked down, man, and taken down as primary sources, man. So it's not like we're dealing with garbage here. A lot of y'all are good-looking individuals. A lot of y'all, you could tell that these people are put together. They're not like, people that aren't trying out there, and don't have looks to them. So I know you guys are good. And what I'm trying to say is they want a high value target, and they want to break them down because this is what they want to show everybody, because this makes them have more self-worth. Okay. Because them being with you, you lift them up, and you don't just lift them up interiorly. You lift them up on the outside because you are known where you are, where you work, what you do, and who knows you. So my point to this is they break you down, but to get to the other sources of supply, for instance, all the other ones are really trash. They're really along the lines of how the narcissist may not look. The narcissist may look good, right? But inside they're trash. Well, when it comes to the secondary, tertiary, some of these other supplies and stuff, most of them even look like trash. And that's why they hide them, y'all. They hide them because they are low value. They're pick-me's. They just will do anything for the narcissist. They'll show up wherever, whenever. They'll buy them whatever. They'll do whatever for them just to be with them. And they don't even look good. Those are supplies that they hide, y'all. That's why their harem is so hidden, because they're kind of embarrassed themselves. And I want to go over this construct real quick, because what they do is they get you to consent. Then they worship you, and then you kind of do the same thing back, right? And then, in a sense, this is my own opinion, but then they get you to obey them. This is what they do. They get you in this obedient state. They break you down to an obedient state. Doesn't it sound like a god, right? And this is what the demon is getting out of you. This is where God kind of allows it. He's letting you walk down this path, right? And then they isolate you. And this is all what happened to the narcissist as well. You got to understand. Part of how they got taken over was the same stuff, y'all. They were probably all alone, or felt all alone when they were children. And then they got to a point to where they had voices in their head telling them what to do. And then they started doing these things, and then they started worshiping these things. And then these things, because they did not forgive and they didn't know the Lord, these things swooped in. Okay, and then they got them to be obedient. And then they isolated them. They isolate them in here and with just people that are like them. See, they're flying monkeys and their family that believes the mask, and they know what's really going on, some of them. That's who they surround themselves with, because that's what the devil tells them to do. And then the devil gets them to manipulate, and they'd be like, hey, didn't you like all that power you had? Didn't you like all that control you had when you did that takedown? And they start to be like, yeah, I'm they're really weak. They're weak individuals, but they put the power in the hands of the demons, right? And then the demons tell them what to do. And then they follow through with it. And they succeed most of the time until they meet a chosen one, or somebody that's saved, that knows the Lord. And the Lord gives grace for you to come out of this and then not to lose your life. And so this is where they scratch their head, because a lot of times you're not only a curse breaker, but you know the Lord too. And if you don't know the Lord, you're a curse breaker, and you have will to know him. And he wants you to seek him, And so then they never will discard you, because you're the best thing they got, but they got to give you breaks, and they got to make you believe that you're a nobody. That's why they beat you so hard. So what they do is they shelve you in the harem garage. And that's how they torture you. You defy them. So they put you in silent treatment, because that's what they hate. They hate when you do it to them. So that's what they do to you, because they know it hurts and they hate it. So they know that it works. So that's what they do to you. We're not silent treating them. We're going no contact, but they think we're silent treating them. But we're just kind of mirroring them, really. I mean, this is what we need to do. We're not really mirroring them, but this is what it looks like to them. It looks like we're mirroring to them something, probably. So they also then break you down to a codependent state, because then you become enslaved by them, you see. And this is all what a demon would do. And then they start emotionally torturing you and all these things. So they got to want to need help. They got to want to forgive, and they got to let go of pride. See, then they get them addicted. They did it to one person, and it gets the adrenaline pumping. And the adrenaline takes over, and because the unforgiveness is where they're losing their love. And when the demon comes in, there's no love in the demon, so there's no love that could be in the individual. And that's that's a clear-cut sign that somebody is demonically possessed. They have no love. That's God telling you that if they have no love, they can't have any of the fruits of the Spirit spoken of in the Word of God. And if nobody, listen, if you don't believe the Word, fine. But if we didn't walk in what the Word calls the fruits of the Spirit, this world wouldn't be surviving today. It would be over. But because there's enough good individuals out here, God calls us the salt of the earth. And the salt, if you look at a plate of food, is like the earth. It's sprinkled about. There's not many of us. But we are the spice of the earth. Because if we weren't here, things wouldn't work right. And we're the ones with the creativity. They're not. We're the ones with the compassion. They're not. We're the ones that help others. They don't. So what happens is they open doors and they get them to drop the love when the demon comes in. And then what they do is they get arrogant, and when you lose love, you're arrogant, and that's where they become entitled. See, that's the demon, right? And the demon pumps themselves full of them. So I mean, it's like one and the same. It's like you're seeing a little personality of them, but for the most part, they're one and the same. They're pumping the demon's blood through them, and it's just adrenaline. They traded love for adrenaline, and to get adrenaline, you got to do things that are twisted. You got to do things that are sadistic. You got to do things that catch people off guard, that treat people wrong, that cause adrenaline rushes. And these euphoric feelings. These feelings of, they get hits just like we get hits, when we're doing the up and down with them. And so it gets them to think backwards as well, because backwards is how the demon thinks. Backwards from humanity is how devils think. They're torturous spirits. And that's why the narcissist will never be happy. Because now they have no love, they're backwards, they're arrogant, and they're entitled. And they can't be wrong. And that's part of the reason why fallen angels fell and all of that. They got convinced and gaslit by the enemy, and that they're right. And if you think today they think they're wrong, they don't. They're probably just as arrogant. But demons were their copulations, and they gotta also, convince. They gotta give the narcissist something so they give them power and control. But it's not good. It's through manipulation, and it's through the orchestration of a damned devil, and it's damning them as well. And if you stay with them, they will damn you. And that's why they feel shame. They will still, I don't care what people say, they feel shame on all levels. I mean, when I say all levels, I believe all cluster Bs will feel the shame. Maybe the psychopath won't, because they've gotten so far. But that's the thing. When you don't use things and you're not careful and concerned about what you do, you start to lose these things, and you can lose them so bad that you can't even, it would take a lot to come back. And so they do feel shame, because they do know that the humanity in them knows that they're evildoers, but they're addicted now. So they took one down, now they take another one down. Then they take two more down, and before you know it, they're lining them up. But what I want you to know is that you're high value, and you're missing a few details that got you caught up in all this. And it stemmed from your childhood as well. You dealt with similar childhood traumas. And that's why they can't leave you, because they need you. I don't care what people say. They need the primary supply. Once they had them, they get addicted to them. And if they look like it's the tormentor, that's what God gives you over to. If you can't forgive, he'll eventually give you over to the tormentor, and that is demons, y'all. And they have rights at some point. The laws are meant, and the rules and the laws that God put into the foundations of the earth are for everybody. He has no respecter of persons. So you can't wait for God to act. You have to act. And so they have sex with you, and they do all these things, right? And they mirror you in the love bomb phase when they're seducing you, because you want to find like-minded people. They always say the opposites attract. Opposites don't attract. They're opposite from you, so they got to mirror the same as you. They're mirroring the same as you to get in, because opposites don't attract, likes do. Where you attracted to them is because you had similar injuries in childhood, except you succeeded even though you were injured, and that's where they come at you. They're still kind of a child in there, right? And in their childish ways, they have an easy time dissecting you and getting to the child in you. Because if you're still a child, you can find the child in somebody easy. We can't, because we're adults. But inside, their spirit is inherently kind of still childish because they stopped growth. They were stunted. They were manipulated during a time at a young age, and it stopped. And because it stopped, it's like it's what they call arrested development. But a lot of it is because they refused to process the emotions because they had too much fear and it hurt too much. And so instead of dealing with it, and still, because see, to deal with forgiving somebody that did you wrong, you have to process it. And if you don't process it, this is where they open the doors. They didn't process. As a child, they just obeyed their parents. And when things happened and, you know, they froze up and fear came in and they blocked it with pride. And then they would get aggressive. This is kind of how it went. But if you don't forgive and you get it locked up, you freeze up and you leave it in here, this is where you have trouble down the road. And you won't be successful either. I'm not telling you to forgive. I'm just telling you that this is how this kind of stuff works. It opens doors, but they do feel shame because when humanity is doing things wrong, they have to deal with the shame. And they have to deal with some forms of regret. And if you don't deal with things, sometimes they come down in anxiety and depression type forms. And they make you codependent. That's what they get you into. But you probably weren't, you know, codependent, so to speak, before. You didn't feel like you were. But like I said, they inflame things and bring up your old childhood issues. So anyway, if you can give me a like, a subscription, y'all. I love you. I'll try to give you the best that I can. But I'm telling you, this is a psychological and a spiritual issue, and it still could have some sort of a genetic predisposition, a little bit. But it doesn't mean these individuals were damned at birth or anything. They chose these paths. Maybe it was hard, but it was hard for us too. Love y'all. Take it for what you want, and just dwell on it. Don't jump to conclusions, okay? Peace, y'all.